All right. Hi, everyone. Hope you are doing well. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me as usual. Just doing a quick sound test. So give me a like if you can hear me okay. That would be awesome. And just going to do a quick intro. So, this is the Career Transition Podcast. And my big dream is to have a podcast where people call in and ask career related questions because you can do that with relationships, you can do that with finances. So, why not have an accessible outlet for people to ask their questions when it comes to their career? Thank you, Nina. All right. So, I'm going to start bringing folks to basically the stage. And Cynthia, I think you are ready. So, I'm going to bring you on. Let us do it. All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly. Awesome. Okay, so why don't you tell us your question? What can I do for you today?
So Nala, thanks for having me. I really like all the advice and help you provide to all of us on LinkedIn. I've been following you for a while, and I really, really appreciate all of your insights. So I think my question is that I'm going through a career transition. I've moved from Canada to the US, and I got here 6 months ago. It's been the worst job market ever. It took me a while to actually sit and try to find a job because I was taking some time to settle down in the US, but now I started to look for jobs and all I see are layoffs in every single company. So I think I'm kind of lost on which way to go. My whole experience has been in banks in Canada. I only ever worked in a bank. Um, Looking for industry change with this market scenario will be very hard because I know companies are preferring whoever has the experience they're looking for. They're not giving people the chance to do a transition to, a new role or a new industry. So I want to get your thoughts on what do you think about that? What do you think? Like, do you think there's a chance that I could try for industry change at this point, or maybe even I wouldn't mind going down a level or two. Like in Canada, I was a director level already in product, but I would be happy if I get a senior product manager or even a product manager because in the US, there's so many opportunities in every area.
Well, thank you for sharing. Um, First of all, I have helped people who went through career transitions last year. Several of my clients have gone through that. In fact, one of my clients was actually an architect, and I'm not talking a technical architect, but architect within the real estate world. And for him to be able to go from that to basically digital product manager means that you can do it. If he was able to do it. So, I have a couple of questions for you just to help me understand the situation, right? You're obviously an experienced person. You've been in product in a while. What do you where in the whole job search life cycle do you get mostly stuck? Is it that you are not getting enough interviews? Have you been getting interviews and then you have those conversations and they don't pan out? Where in the life cycle do you feel
I,
like you're not getting traction?
I am getting some interviews. What I've heard in some interviews, for example, I got interviews in industries that are not banking, and then I hear you don't have the banking experience. I do explain how I could transfer my skills. I don't know if that's enough in the current market because, of course, they have a lot of people applying who might have the experience exactly that they're looking for. So it might be the way I communicate, like maybe I'm not confident enough to show them that, I could do it, even though I've been in banking majority of my life.
So that is interesting. That is an interesting point that you just shared because, I heard the initial concern was that I'm trying to do a pivot. But the concern is that maybe I'm not going to have the relevant domain experience, but I'm hearing even within the same domain experience, it's not working out. And they're basically saying that, well, we don't see that you're a fit because your experience doesn't seem to match what we're looking for. So that to me is definitely a sign of us not articulating our value as well as, we want to. But have you applied to roles outside of banking? Like, has any one of them panned out? Like, what happened with those?
Just really early interview stages for those. I only started applying early December. So I got a few interviews. I got to hiring manager like second rounds, and then I did not get an offer.
Okay, so you've been getting interviews for basically positions outside of banking. What are some examples of the industries that you've applied to, and what were the levels of those roles?
Telecommunications was one of them.
Okay, and was it what level? Was it senior product manager? Was it above? Where? What level?
Was a director level, very similar to my product role that I had in Canada in banking. Um, yeah, and it would be a good opportunity, but it just didn't work out.
Okay, why do you think it didn't work out? If you dig deep and try to what I mean, if you ask your gut feeling, what was it in your
This
opinion?
one was beyond my control, I think, because one, I did not click with the hiring manager. That was one. If there's the second cause, like, and then the main cause was that they posted the job as a remote job, but I'm not in the location where they want to hire this person. And then they changed it to hybrid, and I'm not there. So
There
that
you
might, but the first thing is that I did not click. Even if it was a remote job, I don't think I would go for it. That's a matter of you. You want to work with the person that's interviewing you, and that was not the case on this one. And so I don't know if if I would pursue it further.
So, a lot of what you're telling me has nothing to do with your competency level. Everything that you've shared with me so far, I mean, you've kind of proven the otherwise. Like one of the things you said, well, maybe, I should take a more junior role. But I'm hearing that you actually were interviewing for a director level role. So we know that if you're getting interviews for that role, that means you have a chance. Otherwise, they wouldn't have called you. That means they see you as qualified. And
Exactly.
then when
Yeah.
we dug deeper, it turns out that you just didn't click with the person. So it had nothing to do with your competency.
Yeah, that was one example. I feel that what are your thoughts on I find that if I got a job in the lower level, I would be more excited than having a job where I have to supervise people. I feel that I would prefer individual contributor even if I'm a senior manager versus a director. And the roles I'm interviewing for, whenever I apply for something lower, I never get an interview. That's why I'm only interviewing for director because they're the only ones that call me back. Maybe because of the years of experience and my resume, or I would be perfectly fine as an individual contributor as a senior manager.
So that's a different thing, right? At the beginning, what I thought you were saying was, I want to go for a more junior level because I feel I'd have a better chance. But now what I'm hearing is, I don't enjoy people management.
Kind
Am
of
I
let's
getting
put
that
it that
right?
way. Yeah, yeah. Kind of let that. It's not that I don't enjoy. I've worked with a lot of people and I really enjoy managing them, but I like the hands-on experience of being a product manager, not just supervising.
Okay. So, um, the desire to be an individual contributor comes from basically wanting to be more hands on. What if you had that ability and still managed people? Would that be exciting for you?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
okay, okay. So, Why not look for that?
Yeah.
I mean, why not look for principal, maybe product manager roles or group product manager roles where you have the best of both worlds, or there are also basically director level roles where you are more of a, let's say, specialist and not necessarily um, a people manager or overseeing people, right?
Yeah, yeah, I am applying for roles. The thing is, the roles at this level, they don't mention if there's people reporting to you or not. So whenever I see something that's a fit, I apply, and then I find out during the actual screening that it is, supervisory versus individual contributor. So I've had a few like that.
So I think the issue to me is not the competency. I think the issue is fit. I think the issue is you haven't found something that you're absolutely excited about.
It might
That's
be
what
the
I
case.
think it is.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't found the types of people that you get along with, right? So that's what you need to sit down and figure out. And maybe because of that, your brand is not really speaking to that. How many jobs have you applied to in total? I'm curious. You mentioned that you started going at it, more like persistently back in December.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
That's not a long time.
No, no.
So how many in total so far? The jobs that
Uh,
you've applied?
Probably around 50 to 60, but focus, like really, really customizing my resume and everything was about maybe 10, 15.
50 to 60 jobs in a span of what? I would say 2 months is definitely a huge
Two
number.
months, yeah. Yeah.
It's a huge number. And when I see someone say that to me based on my experience, it means that they're not clear about what they want. It's kinda like, you're shopping, right, for a pair of
Yeah.
shoes. If you're not super clear about the type of shoes that you wanna shop for, then you're just gonna be walking into stores and just seeing what's available, and that's the problem, right? You gotta define the type of role you want down to the level of the people that I enjoy working with. I think that people tend to overly emphasize the tasks, in terms of, yeah, coming up with a vision for the product, maybe the type of product, maybe the fact that you're going to collaborate with people. I think you also need to think about the people aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Who would I enjoy working with? Who would I enjoy serving? Who is this product going to be for? Who's going to be my boss that I'm going to enjoy partnering with? I want you to think about that a bit more as you think about, your job search strategy.
Mm-hmm. Now, how do you define that even before? Because you see the job posting might be a great fit, and then you get to learn more about that job. It's nothing that you thought it would be. How do you get to know all that before you even apply so you don't waste time applying?
A couple of things that you can do, and obviously, it's conversations are have to be made in order to make that final determination. But I hear what you're saying because you can just keep knocking on doors, right? Till you
Mm-hmm.
find out. I'll tell you that it starts with you defining it. And then once you define it, then you can build a brand around it. And when you build a very defined brand around it, what's going to happen is when you apply to those jobs where they see that there is that clash amongst your values, they're not going to interview you. And that is a good thing because you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
waste your time showing up to interviews where there isn't that synergy and alignment. So if I were, I'll start with myself as a comparison, and then I'll give you an example of a client who did that as well. So I'm very, very particular about my messaging and my brand and my stories and what I post on LinkedIn because I am wanting to attract a particular type of clients and deter types of clients that I don't enjoy working with, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is why I get super vulnerable in my posts, and people who don't enjoy that vulnerability, don't enjoy the aspect of personal development, just want to treat their job as a transactional activity, they get repelled from me. I've had a couple of people who would join my lives, they would hear my story and they would just drop off, or they'd message me later and say this is not for me. And I'm like, I'm happy that you figured that out now versus later, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when you start with yourself and you're not worried about the fact that you're going to be rejected by some, and I think that is the mindset that people tend to have when they're building their brand. They're scared that if I narrow things too much and if I stick to a niche, I'm scared that I'm going to eliminate, my options. And my thoughts are, well, wouldn't you rather do that than show up to 20, 30 interviews, exhaust yourself, or even end up getting an offer at a company you hate? Because you're going to end up in the same situation, right?
Yeah.
And so we just got to be strong enough to not be afraid to talk about what we want. And once we do that, then we build a brand around it. So for example, if you are so big on being an individual contributor, then that needs to come across in your brand. You need to show how hands-on you are. You need to show that even though you were a director, you were working alongside of your team in
Mm-hmm.
order to push these products. And you got to go deeper versus high level, because someone who's as a director is probably going to talk more about the people that they guided and their performance versus what they were doing with the product and what unique approach they brought in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I would advise you to do, is start with yourself and not be afraid of really showing your personal values and your ways of working, even if it means that you're going to deter certain companies or certain positions.
Mm-hmm. So do you think it's the case of, for example, if I find out during the HR screening that there's certain things about the job that I don't want? For example, I don't want manage people. Do I
Yeah,
decline that next step right there?
I would be upfront about that if that is a deal breaker for you, because
Okay.
it's going to prevent you a lot of grief. But
Mm-hmm.
part of me also wants you to dig a little bit deeper as to why you don't enjoy that a bit more,
Mm-hmm.
just to make sure that you're not, you know, how do I say this? Eliminating something
Yeah.
for the wrong reasons. Because sometimes, and I'm not saying this is the case for you, sometimes people move away from something because they had a bad experience, or maybe just because their company was doing things a certain way, they expect that if they go for that role, it's going to be the same way in the next company. So maybe just be a little open to the idea and challenge yourself and ask yourself, why do I not want to be a director?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because when I was, it felt like a burden? It felt like I had to deal with the people above. It was very political. Or is it more like, the way that that role was defined? It just was not the right leadership style for me. And maybe there's a company out there that's going to allow me that leadership style and have me more involved. Maybe I need to be in a smaller company where I can wear that hat and also
Mm-hmm.
be hands-on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are things also that I want you to think about before you completely, decide that you don't want to be a people manager or lead people. Because even as a group product manager or principal product manager, you may not be necessarily responsible for the person's raise or their performance, but you're still going to have to lead them and mentor
Yeah.
them, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So just try to define that a bit more before you eliminate options. Helpful?
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Awesome. All right. Let's see who's next. Nina, you are next. How are you doing, my dear?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good. Good. What can I do for you?
So my situation is slightly different. I've been working with the company for over 3 years now, and I'm in a video production and post-production. Specifically, I was handling post-production for this company, and I had a team of 7 people under me. But unfortunately, right before Thanksgiving, half of the company was laid off, including my whole team except for me. And right now, so it's been a couple of months, and I've been looking for a job, but market is very, very tough. We're talking about average 500-600 applicants per job posting, with a high at like 2,200 people for one position. Right, that's the situation in my industry right now. So after applying here and there and not having any responses, I decided that I want to focus on my business and develop my business, which was kind of on a back burner for many years now. I do produce videos for different companies, and I've been working with very big healthcare and health related website, one of the biggest medical information websites in the States. And I've been freelancing with them for the last 3 years or so as well. But I want to develop into healthcare and medical industry video production company. So my question is not about interviewing, not about resumes, and I'm not sure if it's a right place to ask it, right?
It is the
But
right place, but keep
how
going.
how do I find these clients? How do, because like this freelance that I've been doing with this website, right? It came from a personal connection of mine, of course, right? Because that's how it works, especially in the video production world, through a friend who we worked with at the very beginning of our careers here in the area. And eventually he had his career build, and I had mine, and he just started hiring me because he knew me as a good producer from like 10 years ago, right? So how do I, without having these connections, uh, find clients and develop new relationships?
Okay, interesting question. So, first of all, I'm sorry about you being laid off, and I totally understand the frustration that a lot of people are going through. I think that with technology, things became easier and also harder at the same time. In a sense that, technology has made it pretty much accessible for every single person to apply for jobs. Whereas in the past, what was going on was not as many people were aware of what's available. So I don't know if it's that the economy was bad. And I know 2023 was a bit of a crazy year. I think we all felt it in one shape or another. There were multiple wars. um, there was that dip from high demand during the pandemic in some sectors, and companies over hiring. And then, oh my goodness, people now go out and they don't spend as much time as at home. And so, consumer demand went down and all that craziness happened. However, I wouldn't say necessarily that it's worse than, let's say, 2008 or when the banks were collapsing. But I hear your frustration. So it sounds to me that you are at that, I will say, crossroad that I was when I decided to leave the corporate world and start my own business, right? That's
Exactly.
where you're at. So let me just try to break it up a little bit and understand. you have some connections, correct?
Somewhat, yes.
Okay. And those connections are all within the domain that you're entering, which is the production.
Yes, if we're talking about professional connections, then yes, I have. So just to understand the nature of connections are because how video production works, we have a client, we have an agency, we have a production company, and we have freelance world, right? Right now, I'm somewhere in between freelance world and production companies, while to get to the client, we're talking about agency and client then, right? So I'm trying to kind of skip that link. My connections are mainly in production world
Mm-hmm.
of with people who are crew members, producers, actors, people who work on production, but people who don't bring in clients.
Right. So you're not connected to clients, you're connected to
Yes,
colleagues.
yes.
Okay. So what is your client avatar? Describe it to me. The person who would, let's call it, buy from you.
It's either a marketing or a communication specialist in-house for hospitals and healthcare systems, as well as pharmacies or any sort of health-related companies that are big companies, right? We're not talking private practices with one doctor and one office manager. It's in-house production specialists who have their own video production, and they hire freelancers for overflowing projects because most of the companies either have their own sponsors and they have budgets for video projects and they handle them in-house, and if they overflow, if they have too many, they hire freelancers. That would be me, right? And any sort of health related. So this right now, what I'm focusing on is figuring out how to connect with big healthcare systems. But obviously, they already have network of production companies and freelancers in place. So yeah, my question is how to. I hope I answered yours. Who's
Mhm.
my client, right?
How to generate leads, right?
Mm-hmm.
So because you're going B2B, it's not that different from how a job seeker would need to generate leads in many ways,
Mm-hmm.
right? So first, I don't know if you joined my one of my sessions in terms of the influencer pyramid, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Understanding your superpower and then showing how you can solve the deeper level problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you need to design a brand on your LinkedIn profile that clearly articulates that, so that if one of those B2B leads land on your LinkedIn, they see you as that authority in that space.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. Obviously, we also need to get traffic there.
Yep.
And so, how do we get traffic? Very simple. There's organic, there's ads. I would definitely recommend the organic route unless you have a gazillion, dollars that you can spend on ads. But how you get organic traffic is you start connecting and following those businesses, figuring out, making a list. What are these companies? Starting to follow them, figuring out who works there and connecting with them on LinkedIn so that they end up seeing your content. They end up having the eyeballs on your LinkedIn profile. So when I first started as a career coach, that's what I did, right? I
Mm-hmm.
identified my client avatar and then I started connecting to my client avatars. And then that's how they start seeing my profile. And then just creating that community of basically clients around my LinkedIn profile, then the word of mouth happens. And that's how you grow your following, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Now, the issue is that, great, if you're doing outreach and connecting with people, you want to make sure that your profile is top notch so that when they see it, they're impressed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when I look at your LinkedIn and I'm seeing, your photo, one thing that I advise you to do is just have a photo where that's a bit more professional, given that you're a
Mm-hmm.
producer, right?
Yep.
You're in that field. Just see if you can have a more of a professional headshot
Mm-hmm.
where you're smiling as well
Mm-hmm.
and not cut out from a photo. So that's the first thing that I will advise you to do. Now I'm seeing, the banner. You have a banner that shows you in action. That's great. That's wonderful. I like the banner. Um, when I'm looking at your heading, what would someone who's looking for a freelancer search on? That's how you want to think about it. So what do you think they're gonna type in when they search for you?
Video production. That's what they would probably look for.
Yeah, video production, editor, stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see that in the heading. I see producer, I see editor, I don't see video in there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think that's what they're going to search on, that's what I would put in. And would you say that that is your niche? Like what do you feel you're known for? Like why are you different than other producers?
Hmm. Because I communicate better and I'm always on time and I'm always on budget.
Okay, well, sure, but what's deeper than that? What do you do that's better than everyone else?
I connect with people.
Is there like an area within production that you feel you're the strongest at?
You mean in production itself? I cover all of it, from production to post production. So I'm kind of one stop shop in this sense.
So you need to put a vertical line and have something along those lines as a statement.
Mm-hmm.
So I help fill in the blanks with your niche. Maybe you want to focus on health, produce end to end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Video productions, something like that, something snappy where they understand in a nutshell what is it that you do. Now,
Mm-hmm.
as someone who's a producer, and I'm just taking a quick look here on your posts, I don't see a lot of videos.
Yes, it's because I just literally started working on my LinkedIn profile maybe a week or two ago, and I don't produce, like videos every day. Obviously, it's a process that takes much longer. Plus, with my current client, they I produce and deliver very quickly, while they post it with a 2, 3, 4 months delay, so I cannot put all my work, all my current work in there. And I don't know, does it make sense to post some of the old work?
I would,
Okay.
because you need to treat your LinkedIn profile almost like your portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are getting people to connect with you, you want them to see the posts,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm just taking a quick look at your website and I see some videos. What if you just took some clips of those videos, kind of like how, people create YouTube shorts
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
just posted them?
That's a great idea. Yeah, I never thought about it, even though I do it every day for work.
Sometimes it helps to talk to people who are on the outside, right? I'm sure that
Right.
would, I don't always implement my advice.
Yep.
Although, I've started posting on TikTok as well, some of the clips from this podcast because I want more people to know about it.
Mm-hmm.
But simple, right? Like, use what you already have. I'm sure you have a lot of stuff. Just chop it up into clips. Um, Something that's catchy. Have a nice hook, and think of your LinkedIn almost like your diary,
Mhm.
describing, a moment where you had fun. Maybe you can do behind the scenes. Make it funny so that even people who are not necessarily, video production nerds would
Mhm.
actually look at your video and laugh. Just remember also, LinkedIn is more of a career oriented platform. So if you can even tailor some of your video production clips where you can even provide advice to people who are producers,
Mhm.
in terms of what helped you in your career, in terms of becoming a video producer, that is going to gain also traction if you do it that way.
Mhm. And what about, because so what I was thinking, how to structure my content on LinkedIn, I've been thinking that because I want to focus on healthcare industry, I want to cover some of the uh, healthcare news, right? Some developments or some tidbits, some information from that industry on my page. Would that make sense? Because if I'm sharing, so what I've noticed a lot, film and video industry is all about networking, and people network like crazy, and we all end up uh, with a bunch of our colleagues, right, and no clients in our network on LinkedIn. So I understand how to, like, how I can attract my colleagues, but how do I attract healthcare media professionals and communications and PR and that sort of audience?
How you attract them is by giving them value. That's how you attract them. So the reason I don't have a gazillion career coaches following me, and instead I have mostly job seekers following me, is because I provide value and I provide content that helps them solve their problems, right?
Hmm.
And so I want you to sit down and, just start brainstorming. Make a list of people who would fit into your client avatar. Think about it. What is their frustrations? Create content around that. What are the common things that other producers do wrong, right?
Hmm.
And that you do differently. Create content around that. Okay?
Hmm.
Um, just figure out, like, when I think about creating content for my clients, I think about, okay, who is my ideal client? Generally, I will say 60% of my clients are immigrants. They struggle to fit in a new country, right?
Hmm.
And so I put myself in their shoes and I ask myself, well, what are the most frustrating things that they face when they move to a new country? Oh, you don't have Canadian or US experience. So then what is the mistake that they make, right? Is probably um, removing, their non-US or non-Canadian experience. Um, and so I will bust myths with my content. I will provide educational advice to surround that frustration. So, you know, um, I don't know if you do calls or meetings with your existing clients. Take some notes. What are the things that keep coming up that they complain about?
Hmm.
You can even tell stories. You don't have to say the name of the client, but you can tell a story of, I came to work and this client, expressed this concern, and this is how we basically resolved it, right? So these are all content ideas. When someone who is in your client avatar sees that, then of course they're going to follow you.
Mm-hmm.
They want a reason to hire you, so give them that reason through your content. That's what you
Yeah.
need to do.
All right. Thank you so very much. It
You're very
was
welcome.
very helpful.
Awesome. All right, friends. Let's see. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Today's going to be a little bit shorter. I guess a lot of people are sick these days, so I had a couple of people canceling. But I wanted to say that if you want to be my next guest, then feel free to DM me. And as you've seen, you can remain anonymous. You can turn off your camera. It doesn't have to be scary. This is a very lucrative opportunity for you to jump on and get free one-on-one coaching. Not a lot of people do this, but I love doing it. A, because people end up learning. And B, I don't have the capacity to get on consultation calls anymore and, talk to clients and talk to people privately. So I figure, do this so that I can answer more questions for people. All right. Wonderful friends. Please give this a like if you found this helpful. And if you know someone or if you want to become the next guest, definitely DM me. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And if this continues on benefiting people and there's more traction, then I can keep doing it. So don't forget to support this. Don't forget to tell other people about this. And don't forget to give this a like if you found this useful. All right, friends. Hope you have a wonderful night and happy. Oh, Philip, you showed up. I was about to end the podcast. Well, I stand corrected. We have one more guest before we wrap up. So Philip will bring you on stage.
Did I have the wrong time written down here? I have me at almost 20 minutes early. I must have the wrong
You might. I'm in the Eastern time zone. What time zone are you in?
Central time zone.
So that's why you got mixed up. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Just in time, Philip. Just in time.
I made it.
You made it.
Gosh, it's good to see you. It's good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. How have you been?
Busy. Busy, but not busy doing exactly what I want to do. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about today.
All right. So tell me, how can I help?
Well, again, I am getting some contracts every now and again as an Agile coach, but not very often. It's generally to do a few things or to tweak teams or to go in and see what's going on with teams. But it's very, very short term generally. I've been back PMing live events, which is what my background is from. And I have not received my first full-time Agile job as of yet. And it's been almost a 4-year search. So that's where I'm at. So like 4 years, I have not, like I have a consultancy and I teach and talk and various things like that, but I'm not getting the full-time job. So that's what's going on with me.
Got it. And why is it important to you to get that full-time job?
Well, it's not really important. The full-time job is just the financial stability of doing the job full-time. That's what's important to me. That not necessarily not necessarily having a full-time job from one company but having a sustainable income. I love Scrum. I mean, I absolutely adore Scrum. I like the way of working and empowering people how to get together and work as a team. And I just, since finding out about that, I've been on fire and just have wanted to teach. A big fan of all of Agile practices. I'm big fan. I have a personal Kanban board up next to me because I believe in being able to set my own personal whip limits and be able to tell what I'm doing. I'm sold. And that's why I continue to do what I'm doing. But I would like to make this a full-time career.
Mhm.
And right now I'm back, like I said, doing a lot of PMing for live events, which is a wonderful life. It's not bad, but it's not what I'm as passionate about. So
Got it. That makes sense. Okay, so um, tell me, like, what happened with the previous contract?
Uh, nothing really. I just the contracts I have, I haven't gotten or just to go in and tweak or set up teams or establish teams or counsel or to talk to people about things. I haven't gotten like a full-time, this is your team, we're going to be running sprints. The only time I've ever done that full time is like endeavors that I've done for myself. Like I've taught people how to run Scrum in job seeking activities. And we've ran sprints doing that, teaching that. And then also volunteer activities like delivering software for the American Red Cross. I've done that as well. But as far as getting a full-time contract, I haven't even got the full-time contract. It's just mainly teaching and establishing things and helping companies come to an understanding what things are. So
And how long was the last contract?
the last thing I did was I taught a theater system how to broadcast, and we learned how to do that by using Scrum. So that was about 2 months, 2 or 3 months.
2 months. Okay. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
very short time. Did you get, I guess the need was just for that. They weren't needing someone to, help the teams, coach them while they're building software. Like what was the expectation when you first joined?
The expectations was to get the ball rolling to where they could deliver their own broadcasts. And so that it was an empirical discovery of how to do that. And so
Mhm.
it went over, like we had technical teams that would put things together technically and recordings and being able to broadcast over the internet and over television if they needed various things like that. So we had technical teams for that, and then we had marketing teams that we get together to allow people to know what was being going on. So we had various different departments that worked in teams and various things like that. So we put all that together and had some dependencies to manage. So we worked together and worked it all out until they understood what they were doing, and then now that they're doing brilliantly. So
Okay. So even though they understood what they're doing, do you think that there is an element of you could have guided them become even better, or you could have guided the execution, or do you truly feel like, that's as far as you can take them?
that for that particular contract, I think that was done. I think that they had discovered the things that they needed to discover. They had figured things out the way they were going, and the process was not. It was just a rinse and repeat, and let's do that with the next one. So once they had gotten their discoveries done, I think they were finished. And I could have stayed on longer, but it would have felt superfluous for me
Okay.
for that because like the product was delivered. Yeah. So that's where I was
So
with that.
if we want to stay on a contract that's a longer duration or a full-time opportunity, then we need to explore basically initiatives that are longer in duration, right? Initiatives where you're going to be needed, initiatives that are higher complexity. What I'm hearing is there was a short need, it wasn't a huge complexity, and so it made sense that it was 2 months. So, can you brainstorm things that you can help teams with where they're in an environment of higher complexity?
Certainly. Yeah, certainly. I would love to get involved with like software development teams that are developing applications for, like I said, the last thing I did software development wise was an application for a phone for the Red Cross that would allow people to know when it was time to give blood again, and allow people to go on a diet and a plan that would replenish their health and various things like that, get themselves in a position to where they were doing well after giving blood. So we developed that and increased blood donations by about 45%, which I was very proud of because it saves lives.
Absolutely.
Wasn't getting rewarded by the money with that, but I was getting rewarded by the fact that I knew that the work that I was doing was worth something. So
My advice, Philip, is that you want to, well, first of all, I think you're great with people, and I think you want to lean into networking more. And it's not so bad that you are basically positioning yourself as someone who is an advisor who comes in and guides people. I know it's frustrating, but maybe the universe created it this way to put you into this entrepreneurship track. Welcome to my world.
I read your posts and I read what you do, and I take inspiration from it. So I hear you. I hear you. I see you.
Yeah. And what I wanted to say is the agile world is going through a lot of, how do I say this? Let us just say a transformation, for a lack of better words. Companies are starting now to see the role as more of a maybe advisory role. There have been like insane layoffs going on in the agile world. So it's just something that you might want to adapt to for now. Like I said, you're really going to have to up your networking game. And you're going to want, and I think you need to be a little bit patient with yourself, because I understand that you've been trying for a while, right? But I feel
Right.
like this year has been a breakthrough year for you. And so now you're starting to add these roles to your portfolio, right? Maybe just leveraging LinkedIn a bit more, maybe just creating more content around lessons learned, and really broadcasting, stories around some of the mistakes that, agile, coaches maybe make or teams make in your specific niche, so that you can attract more people in that world, and so that employers can also see your stories and content. We're moving away from that world of traditional job search. Those days are over. We need to think outside of the box a little bit. Okay.
Okay.
And we need to go to more in-person events and try to talk to more people. Network with other agile coaches and other agile leaders in order to stand out. Have you considered, and I don't know if you've done this yet, have you helped out with any agile conferences as an example?
I've helped try and put together agile conferences, but they were virtual, nothing in person. I haven't done any in person. And then I do speak at various different functions and everything like that through mainly my Project Management Institute chapters. So like I do a lot of that. But those are the two things. I could be a little more out there and in front of things a little bit.
I think it's different when you network in person. And now that the craziness with the pandemic is not as bad as it was, I would say capitalize on that. Go to more in-person events, talk to more people, volunteer. Volunteering at agile conferences is a game changer, because how many people are going to raise their hands and help out, right? I remember doing that a while back, and it just created a tremendous visibility for me. So I would try that. I see someone who shared their thoughts here. I think it's Aditya. He's saying, what are the other roles that you have to offer other than agile? You need to have, you may need to bundle the skill set. So I agree and disagree in the sense of there is that thing that people try to do where they're trying to, expand their options by positioning themselves as jack of all trades. And I don't know if I like that. But I think what I agree with Aditya on is, I don't know if you've seen my influencer pyramid talk. Have you seen that?
I have not. I have not.
Okay, I'm going to share with you.
You did send it to me. I have not had the time to watch it.
You got to watch it because it's going to help you a lot. So, in my influencer pyramid talk, I tell people to go beyond the title. Let's forget about agile for a second. I mean, there's a reason why you love agile, because you love agile because you love how you use it to solve problems. But that is not what the focus is, in a way. Because when you, and you know this, when you come at companies and say that I'm going to come in and create an agile transformation with you, for you, oh my God, no, get away from me. I don't want to change. It's like when my health coach comes to me and says, I'm just going to transform everything about your life, and you're going to have to throw away all the wonderful food that you love to eat, and you're going to have to go to the gym and do push-ups. The perception is we hate change, most of us, and we're creatures of habit. And unless there is basically a desire that you're going to solve for me, and it's going to increase my dopamine levels, then I'm going to be receptive to it. Yeah. So I want you to think about the deeper level problems that you're solving for these companies. What makes you different? Is there a specialty or something, a space that you're specialized in, where you feel like no one else does that better than you?
Yeah, I do several things that are I think very unique. Like I tailor I tailor estimations to be not just generic numbers, but based upon things that the teams like and various things like that. I also do very unique types of retrospectives where I teach people how to collaborate together a little better before having the actual in-depth retrospective. So I do things that are fairly unique. And I also really love how you say, like, don't go in and say, I'm going to give you an agile transformation. What I do is I tell people that I'm going to empower their employees to be able to take accountability and ownership of their work and be far more fulfilled than they ever were, and give you a far better product than you could have imagined. So that's the pitch. Rather than I'm going to give you an agile transformation, I'm going to empower your teams to be better than they are right now. And then it's a process of going about doing it. So that's what I love. That's what I love about agile. Agile is not new. 23 years ago, a bunch of people met in Utah. The whole idea of those things that they came together was revolutionary, and it changed software. But people have been working together in this way for ever and ever and ever, and I believe that I love it so much because it actually works, and the things that are created by using it are some of those powerful things that we have. So that's the pitch. That's what I want to get across.
So as you're speaking, there are a couple ideas that come to my mind, and I still don't think you're super clear on your superpower, by the way. But who you remind me of is one of my clients, Heath, who literally was a go-getter, carved his own opportunities, got into the video gaming space, didn't know how to code. And one of his biggest passions, or one of his biggest frustrations in the gaming world, was the way games were built. He didn't feel that they were built the right way. It was chaotic. And somehow he got introduced to Agile. He fell in love with it. And he's like, I want to introduce that to the gaming world so that we can build better games, because the way we've been building them is chaotic. It's not customer centric. And so I'm wondering, from what you've shared with me, you've been in, production and broadcasting for a long time. You know that world inside out. What do you think is the biggest frustration in that world?
Yeah, the idea of top down, the top down and micromanagement, and not learning from mistakes as you go. Those are things that can be.
And what's the impact of that when you're producing something, when you're producing a show and you're micromanaging everything? What happens?
Then it's generally if I don't have the buy-in and the feed-in of the people actually doing the work, then it's not good. I've never done a good show without buy-in and feed-in with people actually putting things together. And that includes not only the talent that we call talent, but the actual people who are working to put things behind the scene together. They have to buy in to be able to be able to deliver a good product. So
Build a brand around that.
Yeah.
Be a thought leader in that space as someone who's an agilist, who learned that from the software world and now is helping people in the broadcasting space work better in a non-chaotic way, in an iterative way, so that they can produce amazing shows, tell stories around that, create content around that. That's what's going to make you different and unique. Talk
Very
about
good.
the deeper level problems, not agile, not being efficient, but go deeper than that. The frustrating mistakes that people make in that specific world and how you would be able to solve them using your superpower. What is your superpower from a personal trait? What do you think it is?
I know people.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what your superpower is.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
people. You know how to make them feel comfortable. And so tell stories that show that. Don't tell me that you know people, but show me in a story how you've done that, right? I'll tell you a quick story since I'm talking to you about storytelling. One of the companies that I worked for, a bank, basically, I joined, and within a couple of weeks that I joined, I was taking over, an agile coach who left. They were just so quiet. It drove me nuts. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I felt there was something wrong, right? And I decided to take each person for coffee, literally like 10 people in one day, to the point where they're like, what the heck is going on at the coffee shop?
No.
Just to pull every single person aside because they were just so quiet. They wouldn't speak up. They wouldn't open up during retrospectives. So I basically learned that these people were just not motivated. And so I played with them this game from Management 3.0. It's called Moving Motivators, where I got them to take one of the intrinsic motivators and tell me which one is the most violated one. And so one of my developers said that his mastery is his highest motivator, and right now it's being violated. And I said, why? And he said, well, I, love front-end development, and I just feel so demotivated because I'm working on back-end development, and I hate the fact that I'm not good at it. So I'm like, oh my God, no wonder this guy, feels like he hates his job and he wants to quit. But this story shows you that, like one of my superpowers is obviously being able to read people, but the other superpower is helping people open up to me. I'm so good at getting people open up to me, right? So if I wrote that on LinkedIn and I just shared it that way, people are going to believe it versus me saying, I'm just good at helping people opening up to me, right? And so I want you to go back to past memories in the production world, even if you weren't officially a Scrum Master, an Agile coach, and show me moments where you've done that.
Okay. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know that we're late and everything like that. Thank you for seeing me. I'm sorry I came in late. I really
It's
am.
all good. You came at the right time, and we ended at the right time. We're right on the dot at 8 o'clock. Thank you so much, Philip. Thank you, for joining this conversation, and thank you, everyone. As I said, if you really like this, please support it so that others can see it, and that way we can make it more sustainable. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.